I'll call the meeting to order. Gary Cooper, can I ask you to give the invocation, please?
You will. Let us pray. Father God, we just thank you so much for another beautiful day in Kerrville, Texas, and this opportunity to serve you. I ask your blessings on each member of this board and the city staff and all the people who've come here to listen this evening and make presentations. Lord, we just thank you for this opportunity again to serve. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, item number 1 on the agenda. That's an echo up here. Is the Visitor Citizens Forum. Any citizen with business not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the Economic Improvement Corporation. No deliberation or action can be taken on these items because the Open Meetings Act requires an item be posted on an agenda 72 hours before the meeting. Visitors are asked to limit the presentation to 3 minutes. I don't have any cards up here. Do I have any visitors that didn't prepare a card that want to speak? I see none. We'll move on to item number 2A, which is the approval of the minutes from the regular EIC meeting held on January the 14th, 2019, and that is in your packet. I'll be looking for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as printed.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or changes to the minutes? I hear none. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, raise your right hand. That is approved unanimously. All right, moving on to item 3A, monthly financial reports. Ms. Doe?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You'll turn to your financial statements. I'd like to go over financial statements for the month of January. Let's see. First, we're going to look at the main operating fund. And the main operating fund received sales tax revenue of $271,000 during the month of January. This was a slight decrease compared to January of 2018, a little less than 1% of a decrease. But we had some kind of just timing differences going on. We had a large retailer that prepaid in December, so we had a big bump in December, and then we did not receive a payment from them in January. So when you adjust for those timing differences, sales tax was actually up 5.1%, which is very healthy, and especially because we saw increases in manufacturing, food services, and retail, which are some of our most important categories. Interest income of almost $8,000 for the month. We still have money invested in Tex Pool that is earning 2.58% as of last week. On the expenditure side, we had expenditures of almost $233,000. They included budgeted transfers for the administrative fee and debt service. And then we also transferred $125,000 from the operating fund to the project fund for budgeted business development set aside. And the second page of the financial statements is the financial statement for the project fund. So you'll see the only activity that occurred there is just that transfer in of the $125,000 for business development set aside. Let's see. And then if you'll go to the third page, there's a little bit more analysis on sales tax revenue. We're looking good for the year. We're a little bit ahead of budget, so that's a good thing. I think some of you have seen the February sales tax numbers that came in as well, and they are up 6%, and February is our largest sales tax month because that's December sales that we're receiving sales tax for in February. So things are looking good on the sales tax front. Then in the middle of the page there, you can see the information about the cash balances. So about $102,000 in the operating fund, and then $3.65 million in the projects fund. And then all of that is invested in that Tex Pool investment. And down at the bottom of the page, you can see information on what makes up that $3.65 million. Over on the far right-hand column, those are all the different project balances in the project fund. You can also see information about other projects that have already been transferred to the project. For example, the tennis center and Legion Lift station money. And also during this month, I've attached reports from James Avery and Fox Tank. So they send these to us on a regular basis, and we decided to just go ahead and include them as part of your packet. So James Avery sends a report every quarter, and per their agreement with EIC, they have to meet different criteria around how many people they have employed. So James Avery's report is for the quarter ended December 31st, and they continue to exceed their employment numbers. So they have 98 more people employed than what is required in their agreement as of the end of the year. So continues to be very strong. And then Fox Tank, I think this should have been left on your place today. There's a monthly report from Fox Tank, and this is for the month January 2019. The agreement with Fox Tank has requirements around number of employees. So they're required to have at least 30 employees. So they're well exceeding that because they have over 100. And then also in their agreement with EIC is that at least 60% of their employees must reside in Kerr County. And they're showing 71% residing in Kerr County. So they're meeting those criteria as well. And that's what I have. Does anyone have questions?
That was my question about the Fox Tank. I
Okay.
had, but now I see it.
Good.
Great.
I have just one. It's kind
Yes,
of
sir.
minor. It shows that in total revenues that we are at 32.5% sales tax of where we should be at 33.3. Would that be right?
If sales tax was evenly distributed throughout the
That was
year,
gonna be
that
my
would
question.
be.
Does it fluctuate
yes,
in
it
our
does.
budget's level?
Yeah, and you can see some of the fluctuation if you turn to that third page that has the sales tax revenue analysis on it. You can see actual for 17, 18, and then the budget for 19 split out by month. For example, February represents a little over 10% of the total for the year. So you can see, that month is larger than other months. And just to warn you too, March and April are usually the two smallest months of the year. So yes, there is seasonality there. So you can't just do a straight line.
Okay.
All right.
Other questions?
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
Echo, do y'all hear an echo out there?
Yes.
Tech guys, wherever you are.
Moving on to item 3B, Mr. Hoppy.
Sound echoey.
It does, but now it just stops. So maybe, because they can see us. So
They're able to adjust back there.
Message.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to provide a project update for you on several critical EIC funded projects. Start off with Tenor Center improvements. Told you last month that we had completed a kickoff meeting with our contractor, and that is in process. They are ready to start construction first week in March. We've done a little bit of shifting around based off some activity and play out there, but we're ready to get that going. So it'll kick off in March and carry us through summer time frame, and hopefully we can get it back and operational for tennis folks starting next fall. So we will be phasing the project, so there will be some level of play that will be essentially functional there throughout the construction process, but obviously the full campus won't be open, but we're going to try to minimize the disruption as best we can. River Trail extension to Schreiner University. We did have the opportunity just last week to kick that off with the engineering firm. So we are in the process of tracking routes and tracking down easements and going through design efforts with some of the trickier parts of that project, particularly at the actual Schreiner University campus and crossing the creek and whatnot. So that design effort is well underway. Aquatics Center feasibility study, as we reported to you last time, our consultant is out there working through a phasing plan, looking at cost estimates, and as those are developed, we look forward to bringing those back to this group as well as the general public in an open house type format. Legion Lift Station and Force Main, we have kicked that project off as well. We are in the final processes, not a tremendous amount of easement acquisition on that one, as a lot of that distribution is already throughout the right-of-way that we have. We are doing some slight reroutes, and then obviously at the site ourselves, we're working through a few little last-minute easement elements. But that project is tracking along nicely and ready to kick off in construction in the March timeframe. Two projects really more on the private side, but wanted to keep you guys posted on those. You've probably seen quite a bit of progress occurring at the Hobby Lobby site, or the the former Econo Lodge site at this point. But they are actively going through the demolition process. They've got, I'd probably say, 2/3 to 3/4 of that down already. Didn't see it today yet, but it's getting pretty close. And then they'll begin their site development work. They intend to, their goal is to turn that over to Hobby Lobby by April 15th. If they can hit that target, Hobby Lobby remains confident that they may be open as early as September of 2019. So very aggressive schedules, but we're hoping and helping in any way that the city can in helping them achieve those deadlines. Thompson Spur 98 infrastructure, they are working through easement acquisitions and final engineering on that project. So once they get those finalized, then they will move forward with construction. We'll keep you guys apprised. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
And Bruce, this is probably directed to you more than anything. I see you over there. I noticed there you put your for sale signs on the property, which is really cool. Do you plan to have like a sketch of what's going to be done so that people can know what kind of sites you're going to be selling?
Yes.
Okay, there's just not anything on there at this point. I just thought that'd be helpful to people, because people ask me about what, and I said, well.
The signs are working very effectively. They actually say, please, no trespassing, but I can be.
But I can be bought, yes. It's private property, please don't trespass, yes.
That's right.
Yes, it is.
But that's exactly what they're supposed to do, is generate some interest and some phone calls. And yes, we're working on those documents and they're not finalized, but
Cool.
thank you for asking.
Thanks, welcome.
What site was that?
The Thompson Road.
That's the Thompson Drive site.
Oh, the
The
Thompson,
landing.
sorry.
New Donald
Okay,
Companies is calling it the landing.
Right.
The 60 acres there on the river.
can you just address the reuse lines? I know this week they were supposed to start, I believe, right?
Yes.
And I can see a green crane out there.
That's correct. They did mobilize today, and that construction process is in process. So we're hopeful that within the next couple of weeks, hopefully we'll have those lines out of there, depending on how difficult it is, particularly on some of
good.
the underwater elements.
Well, I go over there every day, so I'm always
Yes,
trying
ma'am.
to stay on the road, but always looking. I did
That's
notice
right.
the crane, so that's
Drive carefully.
news.
Yes.
Try not to be distracted.
Yes, ma'am.
Were we successful in getting any funds to help with that?
Yes, our application with the Texas Water Development Board is in process, so that has been submitted. They've got to obviously go through the state bureaucracy, but we remain pretty confident that those disaster recovery funds are going to come through for us.
What's the value of that project to rebuild that? Do you have a number?
Right now, for the rebuild, we do not have that number because we're looking at a number of engineering solutions in consultation with TxDOT. One option is to go potentially onto the existing transportation bridge, and so there's some cost associated with that. Another might be boring under the river, so there's a different cost associated with that. But we are applying for not only the disaster recovery funds for the removal of the old infrastructure, but also for the potential replacement of that, given one of those two techniques.
So all your contract right now is just to remove
That's correct.
what's there.
That's correct.
What's the value of that?
The value of the infrastructure that was
No, the
put in
removal,
place.
the removal cost.
Cost to do it?
The
cost of-
contract to remove it was $285,000.
That'll be applied against the recovery funds, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. That's correct. In total, we anticipate potentially making an application for up to $2 million in.
Oh, it's gonna be in that range.
Yes, sir.
So was any liability from any of the engineering or anything leading up to that, so for the design of it?
Yes, sir. As we talked about last month, the part of the removal process will be cataloging all those elements for forensic analysis. So more to come as that all unwinds.
Legal fees, I'm sure, included.
I don't know why.
Mike works cheap.
Don't know why either.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Hoppy. All right, moving on to item number 4, which is consideration and possible action on an application for project funding request to us for the downtown parking garage and streetscapes. Mr. Hoppy, will you be making that presentation?
Yes, sir, I will be.
All right.
Flip to it. I will be doing that in conjunction with Mr. Lewis.
Welcome, Mr. Lewis.
Okay, we did not include this in your project update sheet because we had knew we would be providing this more extensive update for you. This has been a conceptual piece that various members of the EIC may be familiar with because it's really been an ongoing dialogue and conceptualization for a number of years. In 2013, the EIC actually had directly funded a conceptual design that Mr. Lewis's firm had completed, provided kind of a refresh for in the 2017 timeframe, and now kind of culminating into the next phase in the project, which is really the development of construction documents and what we would be moving forward with the actual implementation of a phase. So the conceptual master plan is what's shown here on your screen. And really represents, a project that's more in the $750,000 to $1 million range, and is the overall aesthetic element throughout the exterior of the building. As a sidebar to that, timing-wise, as we have elaborated to you guys on a number of occasions, before we came forward to you at this step, we wanted to make sure that many of the deferred maintenance elements within the interior of the facility were completed. And I want to kind of differentiate pools of dollars here. So the city, capital C organization, just completed the deferred maintenance portion with general capital projects funds. So no EIC funds were utilized for roughly $650,000 of deferred maintenance elements that are completed. We've got a few little painting elements that are still being done by city staff, but for the most part, that was a separate city contract. These are really elements that are related to the exterior of the building, have both aesthetic enhancements, safety enhancements, lighting enhancements. Those are all really the exterior pieces, and those are a separate pool of dollars than what the EIC has kind of socked away within the EIC project fund over a number of years, really over that last 6 years that this conceptual process has been ensuing. So that's where we are today. In consultation with the City Council felt like that overall master phased approach of $750,000 to $1 million was too big of an ask, and so they asked us to scale that back into an essential phase 1, which is what we've tried to represent here within the project scope that's been presented to you. And so we come before you today with an ask of $350,000 to move forward with the construction document implementation as well as construction implementation, and if you have a desire to move forward with a funding agreement in the future. Mr. Lewis, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that?
Well, you pretty much covered what I was going to say.
Okay, all right.
But
Well,
I did, thank you for having me here tonight. I did bring a few other images. When we started noodling on this, as Mr. Hoppy said, we started in 2013, and we did a downtown streetscape master plan that went from 5 points to what I call two points, which is the Veterans Park, and up to North Street and across the river. This is the first real project coming out of that, and it's been a long time coming, and with a lot of love. As he alluded and mentioned, we were encouraged to dream and vision, and we developed a budget for it, which was between $750,000 and $1 million. And then we were encouraged to
Go back. We're discouraged, no.
so, but just a few notes. It's a tremendous asset in the downtown, and when I was on the Main Street Board, we met with the City of Seguin, their Main Street Board, and they told us at that time they would kill for it. It is an underutilized asset, and part of that is I think some of it's aesthetics, some of it's safety, lighting, And so the things that, we had a list of 20 items. And those are represented. This is really hard to, I mean, you've got it on your screen, but I think the more interesting things, there's facelift here, and what you're looking at are the City Baker side and Water Street. We are, one of the things that we would like to do here is like a big mesh banner that is on the back of Tybee Antler Stadium. And our good friend Joe Herring has offered his entire photo collection to select from. And as we develop that, we will consult, as we did in the planning process, we'll consult with staff, we'll consult with anybody that wants to be heard and help us make those selections. They'll probably be black and white because most of the photos are, or sepia. So that's the big piece that we're doing. Then down at the pedestrian level, excuse me, people in the parking garage can walk almost any point in that wall out on Water Street and cross Water Street any place between Herring Printing and Grape Juice. So one of the things we're going to do is put some ornamental railings in there to direct people to either end. So they'll come out near Development Services or down at Clay Street. So at several of the openings on those ends, we will have canvas awnings. In our budget, we've got landscape and irrigation allowance. We're going to do some things with the planning there. Some of the streetscape accessories that are part of the downtown vocabulary, benches, ceramic pots, bike racks, trash receptacles. We have a signage allowance to let people know there's free parking. And then down at Clay Street and Water Street, we're going to do a stamped crosswalk. We'll be working with KPUB because they're very interested in doing some connectional power stuff from one side of the street to the other. And we'll be collaborating with that. And then on the interior, we'll be doing some decorative pedestrian path lighting. You've been in the garage. The LED lighting there is glaring, and we would like to do something a little softer. And so those eight items make up the budget and the ask that we are talking about. And these were just some images. Originally, again, we were challenged to just envision, to dream. What you're seeing there, some trellises on the corners that vines could grow up, information kiosk.
Are those included in what you're going to do, or you?
They're not.
No,
They're not.
no,
Yeah,
no.
we really culled it back. The price point on those was pretty significant, and so while we liked them, we also listened to the city, and then we're.
Is this the photo mural right here? Is that an example?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's pretty large. It's a nice size, not just a little.
Yeah, and you can see them
Mm-hmm.
down Water Street. And some landscaping as well. And then here's just some of the examples of the photographs that we might be using.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my story.
That's a great story.
So let me kind of give you guys a little bit of history on how this all came about. Sometime 2012, 2013, EIC had this thought of what can we do to downtown to make downtown more appealing. I think you hear it quite often that, I hear revitalization. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but maybe part of that was part of this. And again, it was a project that EIC took on and that EIC brought forward for a couple of reasons. And that reason is still there today. I'm a member of the Historic Downtown Business Association, and at a recent conversation has been had about what are we going to do about parking in front of our businesses that are taken up by who knows who, but they're not customers. And we have this humongous facility that houses how many cars?
Well, 450 to 500.
Plenty of parking in our downtown area within walking distance. There's definitely one cut through, I know of two, that you can go in between or through the Shriner Goods building to get to, through the plaza to get over to the street where the parking problem is. But I will tell you personally, it's hard to use the parking facility. I tried to come to meetings in the plaza and can't remember where to stop. And there are some things that, which floor do I park on? So there's some things inside that parking garage that can be improved to make it easier to use. Secondly, the outside of it doesn't look inviting, so people don't know that it's there for them to use, nor do they feel comfortable or safe, as you put it, to use it. So that's where this project came. And again, we asked Peter to dream, and he did. And this is the scaled back version. It's been on our list of projects for quite some time. I know someone may ask, and many of you may ask, how is this an EIC project? Well, infrastructure, parking infrastructure for the downtown businesses alone is enough for me to know and feel that it qualifies as an EIC project. So that's the history on it, and it's been, how long is that? 6 years?
It's about 6.5, 7 years, yeah.
And so again,
We never gave up.
no. So again, this
Has
is
to persist.
this is where it is today. So
Well, in the Arcadia, when that opens up, I mean, we're gonna need the parking. Even if you filled up every space on the frontage of all those retails, you'd still need more parking. So I think, entertainment, but when you attend an entertainment, you go to an Arcadia. I'm used to, when I go to Austin, I go to the Brown Center or whatever, I'm used to walking.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even take an Uber because an Uber can't even get up there. You just have to walk. And I hope that we can make it appealing, because I think once people do start using it, word of mouth gets out, and it's covered, it's safe. I mean, your car doesn't, bake in August, and so there's a lot of pluses. Plus, you know where your car is.
And Ken,
go ahead, Maggie.
and you'll probably remember this, Delane, just a tale from Coconut Grove in Florida. There was a development called Cocoa Walk years ago, and they had an old rectangular brick multi-level parking area that was very unattractive across the street. And they did a complete redo. They did a lot of landscape, draped plants, bougainvillea coming out down of it. And they did the signage to direct people to it and to link it to crosswalks. And it brought in business. They did a study, it actually increased business to that area because people felt like they could come and they wanted to come. So I think it's well worth the money.
Did they repurpose some of that space in there, in the parking garage?
I don't think, they did on the ground floor, but they had already had retail there.
Yeah.
But that it was mostly just making it more attractive, making it safer, and making it clear that you're invited in and can cross safely to all the different shopping areas, so.
And we are getting a sign that tells you what level to park on
Oh,
when you come in.
Got it installed today.
oh, well.
Wow, that's fast, isn't it?
Ask and you shall receive.
Can I ask a couple of questions real quick to EA? It looks like a good project, wonderful. My only question is, well, two-part. One, and it's just philosophical, which I've raised before. And in other words, we've had 5 or 6 years prior to today to stash money away from the general fund. I guess I'm getting to the point of when do we determine to use the general fund for projects and maintenance of city assets, and when do we go to the EIC? Because, and I had a long talk with Mike this morning just about the code section 505152, and it's to me it's one of the great run-on sentences in the English language, and it seems to initially say a project suitable for use for professional and amateur sports, and then includes a lot of things, and it mentions the parking facilities. It seems to refer back to a specific, in this case, project would be for professional and amateur sports, and all the other stuff was kind of ancillary to add, to a project like that. And so I'm just curious, I mean, I can understand where, if you put it under, or community facilities, I could see where you could make the case. I mean, it's so broadly written. But it still goes back to my question, when does the city decide that they're not gonna use their funds, but they're gonna use the EIC funds for what should be a maintenance, of the city to take care of that of that building?
Sure. So I think the key word there that you said is maintenance, right? And so we would definitely identify all of these elements as capital improvements, as opposed to the $650,000 in maintenance that the city just completed using city general capital project funds. So that's really the distinction in the line. I think that's the distinction that our policymakers, have made in this regard. Not to say that we couldn't have made a higher request and potentially done some of those elements with EIC elements, but I think that's where our council has directed us to with this application.
I guess I always fight, how we use the money, and what we consider, and I agree, I can see where it can improve the downtown area and bring in business, and from that perspective, I don't disagree whatsoever.
Yes, sir.
It's just frustrating to me because I'd like to see the EIC money used, specifically to bring in more, high quality employees to the city. Thanks a lot.
All right. Any other questions?
So the feedback we'd be looking from you tonight is just if you'd like us to proceed with the drafting of a funding agreement, and if you'd like us to go ahead and set a public hearing date. Your next EIC meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 18th, and we could be prepared to bring a funding agreement back to you as early as that date if you choose to.
Okay,
Would you like a motion?
certainly would.
I move that we go ahead with a funding agreement for the improvements of the downtown parking garage.
Have a motion to instruct
Second.
and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
You want to go ahead and set a public hearing date as well?
And that will also, in that same, set the public hearing date.
For March 18th?
March 18th,
Oh, is it 13th?
13th,
Oh, no, that would be 18th, the
18th.
public hearing, sorry, yeah.
Okay, very good.
and that's our next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Very good. And that did pass unanimously. All right, item number 5 is executive session. I've not been told that we need to do that. Does anyone on the fly want to move to executive session?
We do have a couple items we'd like to update you on, just general economic development negotiations.
Very good. Then we will it's 551.087.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session under 551.087.
All right. Motion and a second. We are now in executive session. All right, it is 4:53 and we are back in regular session. Good discussion, but nothing to bring back out here for any further conversation today. So item number 7, which would be an action item, there is no action to be taken or any other conversation. So anybody have any items for future agendas? All right.
I thought we had one on there with respect to future meetings, but is
Oh,
that-
yeah, dates.
Dates for Monday.
Did.
We will bring that, guys, back to you, really at your convenience. If you want us to go ahead and project out the next 12 to 18 months and how that falls, at least with other holidays, we certainly can do that.
That way
That
we-
would be good.
Okay,
would be
we'll bring that back to you guys on the next one.
Okay.
Sure.
Very good. Any announcements? All right. Yes,
Well,
no?
I was just gonna remind everyone, a plug for the Callow Theater Playhouse 2000 we have our annual fundraiser for the Callow, for funding for the Callow, and it's Dinner with the Stars, Saturday, March 23rd. You can buy tickets at the box office. It's a wonderful evening. You get to have dinner with the stars, literally. And there's a wonderful entertainment part at the end of the dinner. We all go into the theater after dinner and they perform. And it was fabulous last year. So Rails caters it, great food, great date night, just saying. So March 23rd, 6:30, Callow Theater.
Tickets free?
There's some zeros in the ticket.
Oh, I see, okay.
You'll have to go find out exactly
Free
how
will
much.
donation.
There you go. You can donate more too.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Don't need a motion? I'll just move that we adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.